me, Jesus, if you were a power so misunderstood, then hold me high to the sky. Help me believe again.
The story is about this person who had some reservations about organized religion or church, but through community came to find, a place where he can grow and a place where the relationship of God really took place. The way it kind of happened is Tony's a killer musician in town here locally playing around, and he kind of came to Gateway and asked, hey, I'm a player if you need some help. And after I heard him play and sing, I was like blown away by his talent. And for us as musicians, our medium of communication is songwriting. And so we started hanging out and talking about God and faith. And through that, the church was needing songs that, they were trying to get in touch with people's reservation of church and with God and their questions.
And aren't you the same guy that I used to pray to every night? I wonder why I've never heard from you. And things are getting just a little crazy now. I wonder why you do the things you do.
I grew up in a family that was Catholic. My mother was a Catholic teacher. She worked for the church. We were all into the church, and I don't know, I was probably 20 years old, and my mother got let go from the church just a year before her pension. Come to find out later that she got let go because of financial reasons, because she was the highest paid teacher on the church, and they let her go so they didn't have to pay her pension. And so it was a big, huge deal in my family.
She never lies, she never compromises herself. She never lies. She gave a whole life of devotion to a righteous Catholic who they left her stranded in her twilight just to save them a buck or two.
In me personally, it caused just an enormous amount of anger towards not just the church, but towards God. I just didn't understand that at all. So the journey that it led me on, I mean, we're literally talking about 15 years of not even thinking about going back to church. I lived my life, you know what I mean? I played in a rock band, I lived on the road, I chased women, I did this and I partied, and I was just kind of living life how the world says to live it. And without that event, I don't think God would have been able to use me in this story. I mean, I just wouldn't have had those questions. When I came to Gateway, I had a relatively open heart, but I had a lot of questions, and so the more JJ and I talked, the more those questions came up, the more that inspired more and more conversations about faith and about whether it's okay to ask about certain questions about God. And as he was getting to know me, we started writing songs together, and that's where all these questions started to come out. And as JJ got to know me as well, he started to ask me to dig deeper.
You never gave up when I gave up on you. Seems I've never been alone. One tiny miracle is all I'll ever need.
Even apart from Tony's story, there are people out there who don't feel like it's okay to ask questions in church. Like for a lot of people, you come to a church and you're just expected to believe that that this girl Mary became pregnant from the Holy Spirit. Believe all this stuff. You're just expected to believe, and you're not really able to ask tough questions, or there's just the culture around you. There isn't this, it isn't adequate for you to really question, because if you question, it means you don't have faith, which means you can't really belong in this community. So for this record, I'm not sure if, I was talking to Tony about it, and I was like, man, I'm not really sure if this is a Christian record per se. I'm not sure if it fits in that market, because there's some songs in there where we are being brutally honest. There's some songs that are really kind of letting God have it. There's a lot of things in this record that God could really use in where you are. There's a lot of parables. There's a lot of metaphors in this CD that these conversations took place. And if you get into it, I'm sure that God will tug something.
Hoping one day that I hear you say, heaven is waiting, my son, I've not forgotten you. I will be with you, my son, all the trials.
When people really get into it, and if they give some attention to some of the words and some of the story of what's going on, there's really a place for God to do something. For our CD release, we planned a fun event here at our church, and we wanted to give out the story and explain it, but do it through the arts. And so we had a drama team come up and script out some of the conversations that we had, so that we could really guide people through our conversation and experience what we've been experiencing the last 2 years.
Something happened. I don't know. I don't feel as alone anymore.
What's your question?
I guess my question then is that
God?
yeah.
Yeah.
My hope for what people will get out of the story is a better understanding for how God works through people. I hope that people understand that trials are good. Believe it or not, they don't seem good when you're going through them, but they are good, because that's what shapes our souls and that's what shapes our hearts.
I just hope that there are more stories like this. I hope that there are more CDs all across the country like this. I hope that this is a movement. I hope that our generation can find a community where it's okay to ask questions. This is an authentic story of somebody who has questions on faith. Give it a listen and see what you think.
There is